Today, we're going to be grading every team's performance from week 6. We're going to start out in the F tier. Dobbs, we have the New Orleans Saints. They got stomped out by a division rival. 51 points. 51 points. Disgusting. Is there any defense for them or?
No, the only thing I need to say, because I'm not going to say anything else, go watch the video we posted about 5 to 6 days. Well, actually, I don't know when this video is going to drop. It could be like a week ago. But just go look at the Saints rant that we dropped recently. You'll see it on the feed. That will tell you everything you need to know about the New Orleans Saints. That will break down everything. I'm not going to say anything further. Go watch that video, please.
Next, we have the Dallas Cowboys. We had two 50 burgers, right? Or did Detroit put up 47? I think 47. Should have been 50. Should have been 50. I mean, Dallas had Ben Johnson tried to scheme up multiple O linemen to get touchdowns. I think when you get to that point of a game and it's not like a goal line dive, like a fullback dive with a lineman or anything like that, it's just embarrassing. Jerry Jones' birthday at home. How could you? I mean, these two teams damn near need to be F minus.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think putting them in the F genuinely was generous. It's almost like I have no words for either of these teams. Let me say this. Somehow, some way, the Cowboys found a way to outshit the Saints on Jerry's birthday. That is borderline a felonious offense.
Moving into the D tier, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, I don't think it was the worst game in the world from them, but the Bears are missing two players in their secondary, two starters in their secondary, two good starters in their secondary, and they only scored one touchdown. Now, I will say this. I'm putting that less on Trevor Lawrence because I think the receivers dropped 4 potential touchdowns. Now, obviously, that wouldn't have meant that they would have scored 28 points. It could have been on similar drives, but they gotta grab the ball. What are we doing here?
No, and that's why, look, all I really want to say in this is that's why people need to chill on this whole. I know there's a lot of discourse nowadays, like Trevor Lawrence is trash. Watch the film. Yes, Trevor Lawrence definitely still needs to be developed more, and he's definitely not at his pinnacle, and he's being kind of sold out by this organization. But I'm not going to sit here and be unobjective and put it all on Trevor Lawrence. That would just be irresponsible. He has a lot of problems with the receiving core. The O-line is not good. You got to look at the entire picture.
I think a bigger thing, too, is the reason they're not a C is because you could tell that defense kind of started to let up at the end. It didn't really feel like there was a ton of effort out there.
No, the Bears dismantled them. Call it for what it is.
Arizona Cardinals in the D tier. So basically, when the Arizona Cardinals played the Los Angeles Rams, they just used all their effort for the season because they have not looked like that team whatsoever since. And Green Bay had a pretty easy day.
Yeah, and I think they might have used some of it up against the Lions too, Hunter, to your point, in that tragic L. But yeah, I mean, again, like we said, call it for what it is. The Cardinals are an any given Sunday type of team. They are. They could show up real hot and they could surprise you, just like they did the Niners, but they're not going to be consistent, and they still are very short in plenty of key areas.
The Tennessee Titans into the D tier. This is a team that is vastly underperforming for how much they spent this offseason. L'Jarius Sneed is playing okay, but there's times where he just gets burnt. Calvin Ridley had 8 targets, I believe, and no catches. Will Levis is just so clearly not the answer. I mean, you lost to Joe Flacco, who had 189 yards. What are we doing, dude? What are we doing?
No, yeah, and again, I know everybody's so keen on blaming it on Levis and blaming but there is really a point where we have to start saying, yeah, that's part of the problem too. But Brian Callahan, you were brought here to fix this stuff.
To be an offensive mind.
It's gotten worse. Yeah, firing Vrabel. We could have sworn that something about it didn't make any sense. I think it's all but confirmed at this point, Hunter.
We have the Cleveland Browns next team in the D tier. I mean, guys, I don't know. They just traded Amari Cooper. Deshaun Watson looks like shit. They let the Eagles, who already look dysfunctional, win. Like, I don't know. Like, this team is just, it just never, you can't watch that team and be like, oh, this looks right. Like, there's always something just wrong about it.
No, I think all I really need to say about this past game was kind of like, you know, that meme, two clowns fighting, and it's like the two clowns that are dressed up, like squaring up with each other. That was like this game in picture form. And, you know, I know that meme's pretty commonly used. This was one of those meme games.
Deshaun Watson, 168 yards. They ended up with 25 carries on the ground for 100 yards. The offense just looks abysmal. He took 5 sacks as well.
Yeah, that O-line is doing them no favors either.
Last team in the D tier, we have the Las Vegas Raiders. You know, they hung in for a little while, but it just kind of broke free, and the Antonio Pierce experiment is failing a lot quickly. Devontae Adams is gone. I don't think they trade Max Crosby, but he is not happy. I do not think he's happy.
I don't think they trade him either, but I also don't think it makes it wouldn't. Let me. I'm trying to find the right way to word this. It would make plenty of sense if they did trade him. Let me just put it like that. You know, because it's almost like the Raiders don't do sensical things. It would make plenty of sense to get a lot of draft capital for a player that's very likely not going to fit into your Super Bowl window. Sorry, Raiders fans. I know it hurts. That's how reality is sometimes.
Let's move into the C tier. We have the Indianapolis Colts. You beat a division rival, which is good. You win with Joe Flacco, which is good. You don't do it in a very pretty way. I think something that I struggle with too is the performance was all right, but could you imagine what this game would have looked like if Anthony Richardson was playing quarterback? It would have been even uglier. So it's like, can you even go back to him? It's a tough.
Oh yeah, they're going to go back to him. They're going to go back to him. You need to know. I know you know, but for the fans that don't, they're going to go back to him. So
it's tough. I mean, I don't know. Like, it wasn't a very impressive game. I believe they were without Jonathan Taylor. So I'm trying to remember, but it was just not a pretty game to watch.
Hashtag let Anthony Richardson develop.
Yeah, they are not going to be doing that. Next team in the C tier, we have the Philadelphia Eagles. Honestly, you would be in the D tier if you didn't have the win. Just a very, very ugly game. And again, it's just one of those things like the clown show. You're scraping by opponents that look like garbage.
Yeah, and you're scraping by other opponents that also have per se not been amazing this year besides the Pack. And Packs haven't been amazing either. Yeah, so we're in a it's not a good situation in Philly, as we've already discussed, even though they're above 500, but it's just we feel like the writing's kind of on the wall. I think Eagles fans are on the same page.
Next, we have the Denver Broncos. Kind of a confusing team this year. It really feels like sometimes this team shows up and sometimes they don't. I mean, against a team like the Chargers, I feel like the Broncos at times have looked like a better, like higher tier team than the Chargers, but I feel like they put it together less. Like, I feel like you know what you're going to get on a week-to-week basis from the Chargers. I feel like the Broncos, it's kind of up and down. So I really thought the Broncos would come in and win this game, but it just does, that didn't happen, obviously, in the low-scoring 23-16.
Yeah, but I think, again, Hunter, just to keep it as short as possible, I think that's what you attribute to having a really bad roster combined with like a really good head coach. And I want to say this too before we move on. The amount of Broncos fans I'm seeing on like social media, like Sean Payton is a bum, this, that, and if you took Sean Payton off this roster, you would very likely be staring 0-6 in the face. You guys need to stop. It is out of control.
Carolina Panthers. I mean, here's my thing. It was pretty admirable how long they hung in this game. Like, yes, they lost by 18 points, but for the most part, they were in it. Like, Andy Dalton, obviously, like, he's only going to give you so much juice on offense. And the Falcons kind of ran away with it later, but, I mean, they hung tight with the Falcons for a good amount of the game here.
No, 100%. And that's kind of the thing, too, is I'm seeing all this discourse now, like, well, if you guys aren't going to win either way, you got to put Bryce back in. This, that, and the third. This goes back to what we always talk about. You have a bunch of other grown men out there fighting for contracts, fighting for jobs. At least you stand a chance and everybody's fighting behind Andy Dalton. Was not the case behind Bryce Young in the slightest. That's the reason that I think you keep Andy Dalton out there, from my opinion.
Then now we have the New York Giants. I mean, I thought it was actually pretty impressive how close they kept it with Cincinnati. But to only score 7 points on a Cincinnati defense that is pretty brutal is kind of upsetting. I think their defense did the job. To hold Cincinnati 17 points was pretty impressive.
No, absolutely. And again, missed field goal in there. And it just, he played good against the Bengals, and the Bengals defense, yes, they finally showed up, but we kind of knew that was inevitable at some point, that they were going to find a way to make it work at least once, twice, 3 times, 4 times this year. Yeah, every team does. And it happened to be against the Giants this week. But again, the Giants were bare bones as possible. I'll leave it at this. If Malik Neighbors didn't decide to go to a concert and wasn't in concussion protocol, I think we're looking at a really good chance the Giants were going to win that game.
A common theme in the C tier, we have the New York Jets. I mean, I understand the defense was a little banged up. It didn't look great. Obviously, you go get Devontae Adams now, so hopefully they shouldn't be in the C tier anymore. I mean, I think they held tight in that game, but it's really frustrating because that was a game that was very easily winnable against a division opponent that would have, I believe, put you at the top of the NFC or AFC East.
Oh no, that's one of them. That's one of them big swingers come to the end of the year where you're like, oh yeah, like we needed that one. We really needed that. And again, to me, it's also a lot of things even deeper in that. Like that's your interim game, your interim coach's first game. That's kind of the difference between taking a bunch of momentum, being able to run with it versus like, same shit. And I don't mean to be negative, but I think Jets fans are on the same page where I don't think there's a ton of positivity in Jets land, minus the fact that to your point and the reality that now you have Devontae Adams. But again, we're going to see how that intertwines because that type of stuff is going to make either an immediate impact or we're going to say, man, oh man, hashtag same shit.
B minus C plus category, we have the Seattle Seahawks. Just kind of, I mean, I give them props for hanging in with the 49ers, but it just felt like they were just like, they were just one click away from like being connected. Like it really felt like they were just off on everything just by one little tick.
Well, yeah, not only that, I think we could also say like they were like this close to Shanny Choke-a-thon Part 3.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, again, I think to flip into a positive sense without making it into a joke, they showed that they can hang in games even when they're out, that they can come back from bad situations and come back from bad situations against teams that are objectively more talented. You can't be too upset about that as a Seahawks fan. You're still right in the thick of things and right at what I'll say a third through the year. It could be much worse.
I think I also want to give props because they did have a lot of injuries on the D line, so to be able to kind of slow down the Niners like they did was impressive. Next, we have the New England Patriots. This is strictly an offensive grade. The defense got up 40 points. Drake May really did show and deliver. Now, we did have a video saying the Patriots were going to ruin Drake May, and after the game, we had a lot of Patriots fans in our comments. He got hit 8 times. He got sacked 4 times. Like, he made plays, yes, but he was still getting hit quite a bit, and it's not about that he can't make plays. It's how much is the fact of he's got to escape from a very scary pocket for a lot of the time. And, we'll see how that goes for the rest of the season, but honestly, an impressive showing for Drake May.
Well, no, and I want to say this too, because again, Patriots, and because the thing is, but we did say all that. But we also did say that he will very likely elevate the team. And also we likely said you can probably win some games with him you wouldn't have won before, but will that affect you negatively long-term because of losing the draft capital? Those two things, and like you already said about the injuries, those 2-3 things are still very much on the table. Yes, Patriots fans, Drake May is going to elevate the offense for now, but that's the point. You aren't winning the Super Bowl this year. He's going to take hits back there. All that stuff is still on the table. I do really hope he stays healthy. I don't want to see him get injured, and we know he has a good future. He was in both of our top 15 highest prospects coming out of this year. That video still exists on our channel somewhere down months. But we in Hunter have never not had faith in Drake May. We don't have faith in this year's situation. Let it be crystal clear.
Pittsburgh Steelers next team. So here is my thing with the Steelers is the offense did not look good. I know they had 32 points, but the defense, I believe, forced how many turnovers was it? Was it 2 or 3 turnovers? And
get a fact check for you here,
you're
Hunter.
playing a just god awful team in the Raiders, who just traded one of their best players. You have Max Crosby. I don't know. It's just
3 turnovers.
3 turnovers. It's like I read somewhere that on the 3 scoring drives from the turnovers on defense, Justin Fields had 1 completed pass for 6 yards. The offense is not working. It should be better than that.
And it's almost like that's why your Super Bowl winning head coach is deciding to make a change at quarterback. I will leave it at that for now. If it looks worse with Russ, we will revisit this dialogue, Steelers fans. We will not leave you in the dark. I'm just saying I can understand why the change is being made. I'm not saying it's right or wrong necessarily. I'm saying me and Hunter understand it.
Cincinnati Bengals, they got the win. They beat a Giants team who hasn't kind of impressed on defense. Obviously, they lead the league in sacks, but I do think they should have put up more points. I think the defense played okay, but not really that impressive considering it is the Giants without Malik Neighbors. So congrats on the win, but just not too impressive from the Bengals. I was hoping to see
we're
more.
Impressed with the defense finally. And then that same week, simultaneously, the offense wasn't able to do anything. That's not necessarily a good sign.
Buffalo squeaks out a win against a division rival. We have them in the B- C+ territory. Yes, they did miss a field goal in there, but with a team that's missing,
actually.
Yeah, with a team missing, there's DJ Reed, and I believe there was another corner missing. They should have won by more, and they went out and got Amari Cooper to hopefully fix the pass game. Ray Davis was a standout, so it'll be interesting to see their offense going forward. I think they'll look a lot better, but I just feel like you could have done more against this team.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say my final thoughts. If you're the Bills, you're a good team. You do go through inconsistent stretches. Hopefully it doesn't happen in the playoffs. But to me, the bottom line after this game, because this is really the thing, if you think you're a Super Bowl contender, you kind of got to do something about Tyler Bass at this point. I think it's genuinely time to start getting some kickers in for tryouts and figure out what's the best step going forward, because I can't say I have much faith in Tyler Bass going forward. I think Bills fans are on the same page.
I'll tell you what. The Bears had a kicking problem all 2018 when they were playing lights out, and it cost them in the playoffs. That is the worst thing to do when you know your kicker is a problem. Moving into the B category, we have the San Francisco 49ers. They did their job. They beat a division rival. They put up a lot of points. I think it's fair to say they deserve it. Now, they wouldn't be higher if they didn't allow the near choke that almost happened.
No, yeah. But again, I mean, we're at the point where we're looking at one guy whenever this happens. I'm not looking at the Niners roster for those things happening. We know who we're looking at when this happens. But to not go on a rant, because I want to make it positive, the Niners fans deserve some positivity, not negativity. Look, you still have one of the best rosters in the league. The Niners have the pedigree. The Niners are showing that, yes, we are still Super Bowl contenders despite our record. We are going to be a force in the playoffs. We are going to come, run that ball, right, rush the passer. And that's recipe for winning football games. And Brock Purdy is still a hell of a quarterback. When all that is true, the Niners are going to finish with a much better record than they have now. And they are going to be that same team come playoff time, barring some crazy injuries.
Washington is our next team in the B tier. I mean, I think they put up a good fight, and to be able to only to be within a touchdown versus the Ravens and their offense is pretty impressive for the pieces that they have on defense. And I mean, the Ravens defense has gotten better and better and better. So like I said, to be within a touchdown of the game is pretty impressive when you look at the talent disparity on the two teams.
Well, and might I add, Hunter, the talent discrepancy between your D-line. And yeah, we know that, again, the Ravens O-line had started the year like really, really poor. But at this point, it's like, no, this Ravens O-line is really starting to come together and actually play damn near not really good football, but they're playing good ball at this point. So the discrepancy between the O-line and the D-line, yeah, that's another thing we're going to give major credit where it's due to keep it that close.
Then we have Baltimore and B as well. And I think that is due to the fact that you should have probably beat this team by more. Like, that is what I am kind of weighing on right now. Like, yes, you got the win, but when you look at, like, the talent discrepancy in the two teams, you really should have won by more.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. But again, I think it is also just a testament that the Commanders are better than we thought. But at the same time, I mean, yeah, to be in the A+ tier, you have to have a dominant week. Ravens had a good week. They didn't have a dominant week.
Los Angeles Chargers in the B tier. I mean, I think my thing with the Chargers is there was really never a point in that game where I felt like Denver was in control. And to do that versus a division rival is really important. So I think you get the B tier. Honestly, you can only hope for so much against the Broncos. I mean, you only allowed 16 points to a pretty bad offense, and scoring 23 points against one of the best defenses in the league when you have that type of skill talent on offense, which is like non-existent, is pretty impressive. So I think the Chargers deserve their props.
Well, absolutely. I was going to say more than anything, I think you're going to be in the B minus, C plus tier every single week that you can hold to your identity and play to your identity. And this was a prime example of the Chargers playing merely to their identity. Like you said, you're lacking skill positions, but you know what you can do? You can run behind this whole line, churn out first downs, take the clock away from the other team, and take possessions away. It's exactly what the Chargers did.
Atlanta Falcons beat up on the Carolina Panthers. Now, I think they could have done it in a less close game, but you could also make the argument that Carolina is finding its footing a little bit more offensively. So, but at the end of the day, like, the Falcons are a way more talented team, but due to them being a division rival, they probably played them a little bit tougher. But I do think the Falcons, with the way they kind of ended it, do deserve the B tier.
No, absolutely. And I will say this too. Look, you should feel damn good about it if you're a Falcons fan, though, is like, you guys ran the ball really, really well for maybe the first time this year, right? Like, we know Kirk's getting his footing down really back, and you're like, okay, we're looking good, and the defense starting to come together. But you maybe were a little concerned about the fact that you couldn't pound the rock. Well, they sure as hell pounded the rock this week, and it's definitely a real, real good sign. You should be very excited if you're a Falcons fan.
Going to the A tier, we have Green Bay, who absolutely just manhandled the Falcons, the Cardinals at home. I think it was a good showing. Jordan Love had 4 touchdowns. You did what you were supposed to do against a lesser opponent at home. Props to the Packers.
Yeah, and I got a little fun fact for you here, Hunter. Hold on one sec. Let me just confirm this, because I'll say first before I pull up the confirmation. Jordan Love does happen to have 12 passing touchdowns with 2 games missed. And let me just confirm. Hold on.
That's crazy.
Wait, let me just. So yeah, that's tied second in the league with 2 games missed. I remember there was recently a lot of discourse about Jordan Love, and a lot of people kind of come to his doorstep and show hate. Yeah, don't make any mistakes. Jordan Love is still an elite quarterback, and he will continue to be an elite quarterback for a long time going forward. He still has plenty of growth to be done, but Jordan Love, don't count him out, please.
The Houston Texans did their business against the New England Patriots, just like they should. I think putting up 40 points against a lesser opponent deserves the A tier. Now, I will say the fact that they allowed Drake May to get, 3 touchdowns is a little bit concerning, but they also did make him turn the ball over 3 times. So,
well, yeah, and again, though, this goes back to, like, we always knew Drake May had talent. We've had plenty of faith in Drake May's talent, and his talent was the reason those plays were made. It wasn't where you're like, oh man, like they're busting out and they're giving him free shots. Yeah. No, like Drake May was delivering money, great shots. Look, when you're forcing a quarterback, to do that, and they can do that, I just got to say, yeah, credit to Drake May. But other than that, I mean, you did your job. And everything else they had to do, they did, and they forced the turnovers when they had to force them. That's what you got to do when a quarterback's hitting shots against you.
We have 3 teams in the A-plus tier. That is the Chicago Bears, who went out and handled business against a Jaguars team. They made plays with backups in. Caleb Williams probably played his best game yet. The offensive line blocked well. Like, every team, offense, defense, special teams, looked really good. They were in London. They did a great job, and I think they deserve the A+ this week.
No, yeah, again, we promised everybody Caleb Williams was the most talented prospect of our lifetimes. And it only took him about 6 games to start showing everybody. So it's just I can only just sit back and just chuckle a little bit. Yeah, that's all I can do. I'm just going to leave it at that for now. A little victory lapping, but it was well deserved because the narratives this offseason, a lot of you guys, it's time to start watching college film. Let me just leave it at that.
Detroit Lions in the A+ category. They went and stopped the Dallas Cowboys at home. Probably the most impressive win on any team, just because of the fact that they only allowed 9 points and they did it as the away team. So I don't really know how you could give them anything less than an A+.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. It was just domination, and but I mean, look, again, like we said, it's kind of like we're at a point where when you dominate the other team, you're always going to be in the A+ tier. I mean, that was just complete domination.
Last team, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Unfortunately, they dominated your Saints at home. 51 points is insane. So I don't really know. I think if you score 50 in an NFL game, you deserve to be in the A+ tier.
Yeah, as long as you didn't allow like 45 or like from the other team. But yeah, and I mean, look, how about this too? I'll give this my main reason. They were up 17. They allowed the Saints to come back 20-17. And then they said, fuck that. No, none of that fluky shit. And they came back and punched us in the face the second half. That's what winning teams do. The Bucs are objectively a winning team at this point. You got to feel damn good about it if you're a Bucs fan.
Thank you guys so much for watching. If you don't know ball, want to know ball, be sure to subscribe, leave a like, let us know in the comments who we graded too highly and who we graded too lowly. We'll be back tomorrow with more videos.